Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Southwest Magazine. The local nonprofit, the St. Andrew's Civic Trust, is dedicated to preserving the historical architecture and heritage of our town. They've also recently launched the Courthouse Commons project. Here to tell us more about it are Geneau and Ken Beaubien from the St. Andrew's Civic Trust. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Can we start off by talking about what brought you both to St. Andrews and what got you interested in the history of the town and also being a part of the Civic Trust? I'll start with you, James.
Sure. So I was born in St. John, grew up in Fredericton, used to come down to St. Andrews every summer with my mother. I actually remember as a child having a picnic in front of that courthouse. Never thought how life would turn around and you'd actually be living across from the courthouse. I got involved with the Civic Trust when I started doing volunteer work to rebuild their website. Ironically, in the same house that the previous webmaster used to live in, but had no idea when I bought the house. So it was kind of weird that it all just came together, and continued on and joined the board last summer.
And what about you, Ken?
Yeah, so our family, Amanda, Avery, Jaden, and I have been visiting St. Andrews since about 2012 and always thought we might end up retiring here, but with COVID, the pandemic, and the emergence of remote work, it gave us an opportunity to move here a little bit sooner. It was a good time to move the kids. They were the right age, and they were able to join the school system here at a good time and make some new friends before high school. So a great experience for them. It's, you know, nice quiet town, lots of stuff to do, great outdoor activities, beautiful built heritage. We were able to buy a historic home and restore that here, and it's been a fun yet challenging project. And you know, the Civic Trust was kind of a logical extension of that work, where we can, you know, help others in the community preserve, you know, the built heritage of the town, and also help tell some of the stories. You know, it's obviously the buildings are important, but the people that have been attached to them, the families that have maintained them is another big part of the history. So it's great to be a part of that and learn from folks that have been here their whole lives.
And I guess especially when you're both working on your own heritage homes, it brings you to an organization like Civic Trust that can really guide you along the way to make sure when you're doing something it's historically accurate, because we have so many different eras in this town, which is so crazy to look at. You have Victorian, you can have Shaker, and it's all over the board. 10 years from one to the other can be quite different when it comes to architecture.
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
we talk about the mandate of Civic Trust? What is it that the organization does?
Sure. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I mean, the Civic Trust really is about preserving the built heritage and supporting the community in maintaining that kind of built environment and the home. So it's not, you know, I think sometimes heritage and heritage efforts can get kind of confused with policing paint colors, policing built like the houses and the infrastructure in town, but really it's about working with people in the community to help them understand their homes, connect them potentially with kind of the right sort of tradespeople, share experiences if they've had these projects on their own homes. And then in some instances, the Civic Trust has stepped in to maintain or take over certain pieces of infrastructure, like the lighthouse, for example, where it was able to restore that and remains kind of the accountable authority for the lighthouse, where it's, you know, difficult for the town to kind of maintain it, but the Civic Trust is a great organization with 50 years of experience in helping to preserve that. You know, it plays that role really well. And also looking at projects, you know, where you do need to kind of transform its use and purpose in order to maintain and have a successful building overall. So like the Niger Reef Tea House is an example of that, where the Civic Trust was able to step in, help repurpose and restore it, but also preserve that heritage, even though it's a restaurant. So, you know, you can look at projects like that and be able to find a solution that is a combination of the heritage of the building, but also a solution that allows it to be preserved. So I don't know, James, if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was going to say for the Niger Reef Tea House, it now has a new purpose. So it's got a sustainable purpose as a popular restaurant that didn't have a use in its previous life, but when the Civic Trust got involved, had it restored, put a new use to it, and now it's a great attraction for the town.
And I feel like a lot of people don't realize how much work you do. I mean, talk about Pendlebury Lighthouse. For me, it's a nightly destination on my walk with my dog,
Right.
And I love it so much. But you forget that there's an organization behind preserving that heritage. What are some of the main projects that you're most proud of that the Civic Trust has been in? Obviously, Pendlebury Lighthouse must be up there.
I'd say Pendlebury Lighthouse is definitely up there. Even Mecklem House next door, that was a building that was saved. There's a couple of buildings that have been saved. So part of the funding that the Civic Trust has been able to secure over the years has been acquiring buildings that were run down, renovating and restoring them, and then reselling them to new owners with sets of covenants. So that has been one of the ways the town, some of the heritage or sensitive heritage buildings in town have been saved by the trust. So I'd say Pendlebury, right now, Courthouse. Recently, we did pay for a study for Greenock Church. That organization now has a blueprint of what needs to be done to restore the building. So those are some of the things that the trust has funded or been involved in.
It's definitely not a given, that something can be protected, and it is so hard when you live somewhere as beautiful as this part of the world with so many old homes. When you see something that could be in better shape, but it takes an organization like yours to step up to the plate in a lot of circumstances. We have the courthouse right behind James today, just on purpose for this specific interview, because I know a lot of people are curious what will be happening to the St. Andrews Courthouse. It's been in the news for at least the last year or so, and now the Civic Trust has taken it on, looking towards its future. Can we talk a little bit about how you got involved with the courthouse and what you're doing?
Sure. So last fall we approached the town. As many people know, there was a consultant who came in, did a survey on the future of the courthouse, and had lots of great ideas, lots of great feedback from the community on how the community felt it should be used. But it needed to have kind of that next stage. So lots of ideas in town. There are no shortage of great ideas, but a lot of them need to be, according to the town, sustainable. They need to ensure that the building has longevity. And if one of the ideas is it can be a courthouse, well, it's not going to be a courthouse again. We're pretty sure it's not going to be a courthouse again. So it does mean that it has to be repurposed. So Ken and I submitted to the town and presented a 4-stage project. We are in the first stage. It started in January 1st. In that stage, we call it our ideation or our idea generation phase. And so what we're doing is we've built a dedicated page. You can go to the St. Andrews Civic Trust .ca website and click the link and learn about the entire project, but then also submit an idea online. So what we're looking for are people to think about how it could be used, where would the funding come from, what would be the funding to keep it after it's been done. So there's couple of things that would likely have to be done. They have to be likely restored, repurposed for a use, and then also have financing to keep it for longevity. So the first phase, we're asking for people's input. Second phase, we've got a committee at the Civic Trust that is going to review all of these ideas, look at grants, look at other funding vehicles, etc. The broader kind of financial audit, if you will. And then we're going to have, in the summer, an open house. So the public, visitors can come in, look at the different ideas, look at different concepts for what both the courthouse and the commons could look like, and have their say. Give their voice. I like this idea. I'm not sure if I'd be crazy about this idea. I would come back to town if this was here, and get that feedback, and then present it back to town council and say, here are some ideas that are both would add value to residents and visitors alike. But also are not something that is unrealistic in terms of financing or could be funded by grants or other programs.
Wow. And your website is quite easy to use and quite beautiful, I will say. Can you walk people through how easy it is to do in terms of submitting an idea?
Sure. So to submit an idea, you can go to the main website. There is a bar right under the first fold of the website. It's standrewscivictrust.ca. You click on the link, and that will give you an overview of the project, the phases. There's 2 real things that you can do at this stage. You can submit an idea, or, and this is also very important, if you're someone in town who would like to donate funds towards one of the ideas, there is the opportunity to get in touch with us so that we can talk about financing or donations or anything that you want to do towards the restoration. So that is a key part of the site. There's an FAQs that explains how it works, what are we doing, what's considered sustainable, everything that you need to know. And then there's a link. It's a form that you fill out. It'll guide you through the process. First name, last name. What is your idea? How much do you think it will cost? Have you looked at any grants? Which grant have you looked at? Is it specific to the courthouse or the commons? And it'll walk you through the application process easily.
Yeah. And I think the one, maybe just to build on that a little bit, James, like one of the key factors here, and one thing that we want to work with the community on is helping them understand, because some people might not really be sure, like, well, what could I change? What could be touched? What is,
point.
So like the courthouse has character defining elements. It's a provincially designated heritage site. So with that, there are certain variables that we need to consider, and we can work with people in the community if they have questions on that to help address that. And it doesn't mean it's impossible to change things. It just means there's a process we need to follow. Just like any other building, it's zoned. So there's rules that apply, and local zoning and parking considerations and archaeological considerations if we go into the grounds.
Wow.
So it's one of those things where we've tried to do a little bit of due diligence as well to like both support council and the mayor and deputy mayor in helping make a decision, because ultimately it's an asset of the town. So part of our role, we feel, is like this kind of due diligence as well to say, okay, well, here's some of the limitations, here's some things we might need to do down the road, here's how these ideas will be impacted by that, and this is a bit of a plan forward. So we're hoping to put like a complete package together for everyone in the community to really see how this could come to fruition and realistically be executed. I mean, ultimately, James and I and the Civic Trust would really like to see the project done, not just an idea. So we're hoping to be able to take it over the finish line with everyone.
Can we talk a little bit, expand on that idea of limitations or the process of certain ideas? Let's say, I guess there would be commercial, there would be issues with parking. So every idea that people put forward would require, specific thought and planning.
Yeah, a big issue is that it is a provincial heritage site. So anything that you want to do that would change a character defining element, and there is a list. It's not just on the outside. A lot of people say, oh, well, you can change everything on the inside as long as it looks that way on the outside.
Yeah.
No, it's also the inside. It also includes the ground underneath, because it is considered a potential archaeological site if you dig. So all of those factors play into the degree of research or the degree of scrutiny you might get from the province on approving something. So if you change one architectural element, how big of a deal is that? Depending on the significance of it in the eyes of the province.
Yeah.
If you want to change 10 of them, probably is going to be an idea that's going to get caught up in red tape, I would say. So we're trying to look at those things too, and we're helping people come up with their ideas and say, well, whatever you can do to limit the changes that would be to the physical building will likely be more palatable.
Okay, so for all those people that are worried about a courthouse Taco Bell, it's likely unlikely.
Yeah, it would be really hard for you to put a giant, not that there's anything wrong with a Denny's, but it would be really hard to put a Denny's sign in front of the courthouse as a provincial heritage site.
But I'm sure you're going to see a lot of really interesting ideas. I know I was one of those people that was like, courthouse? Could it be a courthouse still? Because that would be great in terms of having courts back in Charlotte County. But again, the inevitability of that is unlikely. I've heard a suggestion for maybe that's where we should move the Welcome Center. Could be, and I'm to direct them to your form.
Good.
I know it's early, but are you starting to get some feedback?
We have. So we've got a couple of ideas that have come in. I mean, we can't really disclose those ideas right now. But same as the idea of it being a welcome center. I think what will end up is a combination of ideas. And I think this is what this process is really exciting about, is that a lot of people have a idea, but it might not be a comprehensive one that would cover all the needs of the building. It might not keep the building full all the time, etc. But if we take all of the ideas and figure out how we can bring them all together and figure out the funding and the grant vehicles and other things that are available, we could have a really amazing space. I mean, I call it the front lawn of St. Andrews. And it should be a space that we all get to enjoy, and
Yeah.
and there's lots of great ideas that are coming in on how that could look or how it could be used.
Yeah, because it's important to remember it's not just the courthouse, right? It's the commons as well in front.
Right.
So people might have ideas that are just common specific or courthouse specific, and that shouldn't prevent them from submitting the ideas, because it's both spaces. And there's a tremendous opportunity, like James is saying, to really develop or transform that commons area into something else. I mean, there's a long history there of celebrations. Like, you look back over the history of that building, there's many images of it looks like weddings and other celebrations happening on that lawn, and a lot of community events. So why not start to replicate that in some way, based on what the town wants?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I vote for a gazebo somewhere down there. So what are the challenges about balancing out the submissions that you will have? And I know this process will go beyond just, well, it's a great idea. Like you mentioned, you have to think, are grants applicable to this idea? Okay, if they're not, is this financially feasible? Could we make money from this idea? What do you, so far, I know it's early, but what are going to be, as you go forward, some of the biggest challenges?
I think the financial part is going to be a significant challenge. Old buildings, even when well maintained, are expensive, and refurbishing, transforming a heritage building of this nature is costly. So the grant money is going to need to be quite substantial, and other donations, etc. So this is a large cost project. So I think that'll be one of the main challenges. And then if it does have to be multiple grants or multiple contributions, is kind of coordinating across all the partners, and it becomes a pretty significant project to manage. So we're going to have to think through the project management part of this as well. And there could be commons projects, courthouse projects, and and if we do encounter, if there is a dig and we do find historic items in the ground, there's processes to follow for that. So, it could be quite difficult to control the construction schedule. And as you see kind of with the wharf project, the cost of construction is just not slowing down. So, we have to make sure that we can keep up with that if there are any unexpected delays. So I think it'll be a little bit on the logistics, a little bit on the financing, but I don't think it's going to be an idea problem. I think it's just going to come down to good management of the actual project.
And ownership. That's another item. So there are great grants out there, but it depends on the ownership of the building. So there's grants for municipalities and governments, there's grants for not-for-profits. So that will be something else that we'll look at, like who owns what.
Okay.
Is there any advantage of it not being owned by the town? Is there any advantage of it being owned by the town? Is it maybe a phased approach? Maybe phase one, it's grants and funding that come from the town, and then phase two, it's handed over for a not-for-profit, where the second phase of development or other things can happen. There's lots of, those are the kind of things, or creative things, that we're trying to find out now that we're getting some of the ideas coming in on really just the logistics and how do we figure out how we can do this sustainably.
You mentioned that the process has many phases. This being phase one, can you give us just an overview of how you see the timeline of this project, from ideas being submitted to then what would be phase two, phase three?
Sure. So one of the things we have coming up is February 22nd. We are going to host, I want to say 7:30. I don't want to give the wrong time, but you can. We can
find
provide
it. We'll
that.
promote the website.
You can. You will see
CivicTrust.ca.
posters in town about this, and we will be sharing this on our socials. But on the 22nd, we're going to host a session at the courthouse to allow people who have an idea and maybe don't know how to get the research done to come in, do a presentation, understand the types of things that we're looking for a submission. And then also, be able to answer any questions on how they can do a submission, or how they can take their idea and kind of add some heft to it in terms of the concept. So we're going to be doing that on the 22nd. March 31st is the deadline, first quarter. So March 31st is the deadline for people to submit ideas through the system. Then we will start 3 months of reviewing all of them. Vetting, talking to stakeholders at provincial, federal levels, grant organizations, seeing if these the funding can come to fruition. And then the summer months is when we'll have the public consultation. So June, July timeframe in the courthouse. Hopefully some visual boards of some of the ideas and what it could look like. And then by the beginning of August, we'll have a good idea of what it's going to look like and submit that to council so they can have an idea of costs and vision prior to budget season.
Yeah. And this can be, and just to highlight this, submissions could be, you don't even have to have a stake in the game. It could just be an idea that you have.
Or you could be someone who's sitting there going, wow, I don't care what idea that comes across as long as it's something that makes the commons useful. Sign me up as a funder. Or somebody to donate. Or it could be somebody who's a corporate donor and says, you know what, we give to community development programs and our idea would be X. You don't have to be the person who's writing the check for it. You don't have to be the person who's necessarily putting the shovel in the ground. It could be a really great idea, and our job is to help find that funding and do that feasibility work.
And it's a huge job, so just a big thank you. I think that when people take on these responsibilities, there's often this thought, I think, that somehow you're paid. And I know that like the hard work is just this volunteer spirit that we have in this community is so exceptional.
We've cashed no paychecks yet on this. There is absolutely, this is because we're just passionate about it and we want to, this is a National Historic Site. It's the best example of neoclassical architecture in Canada. It is a site that has huge potential to be something for St. Andrews. We just need to get the right ideas together, figure out how to pay for it, and make the town better with whatever comes out of it.
And I think one of the benefits of being away from New Brunswick for quite some time, myself included, is that you appreciate how special it is with these beautiful buildings that you just don't get in other places.
They've been torn down in so many communities that there's no chance for maintaining, restoring, or repurposing because they're simply gone. So that's a tragedy that we just don't want to see replicated in St. Andrews. And it complements all the successes in other parts of the community, like Kingsbury Gardens, Water Street, all the other experiences that are already fantastic and bring people to visit and live in the community. So, and this is a project I think that'll blend those two things, where it's going to be a fantastic experience for visitors and also a great asset for the community. So, why can't it be both, right? And I think that'll be a great opportunity, and preserving it so we don't lose it is essential. Yeah.
And on the other side of the spectrum, you've got other communities around the world that are spending millions of dollars to have a space like that they didn't have in the center of their town. We've got an open space with a building that could be repurposed for civic and cultural uses. We've got it's a National Historic Site. There's a lot of opportunity for it to be a first stage destination when people come to town. And all we have to do is just figure out how to make it work.
And I appreciate that dedication. I also want to tell people at home, if they're not following you on Facebook, St. Andrews Civic Trust, your passion for history and for celebrating the community and these beautiful, unique buildings we have really comes through on your socials. So I highly recommend anyone at home. You get these beautiful history moments on there, and it's quite a special thing to have in your news feed. As we close out the show today, I'd just love to hear from you both why this project is so important and why people, if they're on the fence about getting involved, should at least come out February 22nd to hear more, and also consider submitting an idea. James, we'll start with you.
I think I just would echo, it's our front yard. I think with so many apartments, with so much density that's starting to happen in St. Andrews, people need a place to go and relax and have fresh air, have a picnic, maybe play chess or something. I don't know. It's like it's perfect unused space that could be for all those residents to have as their front lawn, and I think that there's a huge opportunity for it to become that.
Yeah, I think the other part here and what really excites me about the project is that it's a space for kind of sharing stories from families that are new to the community and then families that have long histories here. So it's an opportunity to mingle, right? It's a common area for the town to gather and celebrate, and whether you've been here for 2 years or 200 years, it's that opportunity to share stories and experiences. So I think that would be a great part of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to find out where this project takes you and where it takes the courthouse and our town. Thank you both so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Vicki.
Yeah, thanks, Vicki.
My guests today have been James Geneau and Ken Beaubien from the St. Andrews Civic Trust. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.